Hey guys, we're going to talk today about cell theory. I just want to first take a look at some of the contributions that other scientists have made to the development of this theory. Let's start with Robert Hooke. In the 1660s, he observed cork under a microscope, and he saw little cells that looked like rooms. He named these compartments cells. I remember that Hooke took a look, and under the microscope he saw cells. In the 1670s, a scientist by the name of Antoine van Leeuwenhoek examined pond water, and he described living cells. If you notice some of the sketches over to the right, number 8 looks very similar to the ones that you saw in the pond water. The idea behind cell theory first started with spontaneous generation, this idea that life grew from non-living things such as decaying meat or dust. Several scientists helped disprove this theory. One of the first ones was Francisco Redi. He set up an experiment using maggots. He wanted to prove that maggots actually came from flies and not from decaying meat. Below is a picture of his experiments. In the first rounds of tests, he set open jars exposed to the air with meat inside. He used fish and steak. After being exposed for the flies for a while, maggots started to appear on the meat. In the second round of testing, he closed off the containers, still using fish and meat, and he waited to see if any maggots would appear after the same amount of time. And of course they did not. The flies could not lay their eggs on the meat, therefore no maggots appeared. In his final round of testing, he wanted to prove that the maggots didn't come from the air. So he exposed the fish and the meat to the air by covering them with a cloth netting. Flies could not touch the meat or lay the eggs on their meat. However, they were able to lay eggs on the mesh, and we saw maggots appear on the top of the containers. Another scientist by the name of Louis Pasteur in the 1800s experimented to show understanding of cell theory. He also wanted to disprove spontaneous generation. He used his famous swan neck flask experiment to prove that life did come from life. In his experiments, he placed chicken broth into a swan neck flask. He then heated the broth to sterilize the contents. After a while, dust was trapped in the neck of the flask. And after a long period of time, a series of years, the broth was clear. There was no contamination within the liquid. It remained sterile. Then after a while, he tipped the same specimen and let the broth touch the dust that had accumulated in the neck of the flask. And after a very short period of time, microorganisms began to grow in the liquid. This experiment helped to prove that bacteria was the cause of this contamination, not the dust itself. He later invented a process called pasteurization. This is now used to boil liquids to prevent any bacteria from growing or contamination. It allows us to keep milk fresher. He wondered if these germs, or now we know microscopic organisms called bacteria, could be the cause of disease and sickness. His research eventually led to the first vaccines for cholera, anthrax, and rabies. When we actually look at cell theory, it has 3 parts. Every living thing is made of one or more cells. Cells carry out functions needed to support life, and cells come from other living cells. Several German scientists were credited with this theory. Today we've added a few more steps to this modern cell theory. We've added that energy flows within the cells, and that heredity information called DNA is passed on from cell to cell, and that all cells have the same basic chemical composition. You might ask, why is it not a law and it still is cell theory? One of the reasons is that scientists still wonder if there are other specimens outside of our planet that are going to conflict with the ideas behind this theory. Here's some of the works that I've cited. Again, thank you to these sites that help provide images for our learning today. If you have any questions, I'd love to talk to you about it during class. Thanks.